All right, folks, we're back, and it's November the 12th, and we have some stuff to cover here for our Oscar considerations and stuff. We're going to get into the tech categories this time, and we're talking virtually all of them. We're not going to get into the shorts, international feature. I think that's really about it. I think just those four categories. And I won't talk the top 8 categories. Number one, because I don't have any changes in the top 8 categories right now. And then I also, we've talked about those a lot already this year. So I'm like, let's give some attention to those tech categories, and we'll get into that. Also, surprise, surprise, I've actually seen some stuff now. I actually just not even half an hour ago, barely over half an hour ago, I got done with 3 movies that I saw today, and I did see on Thursday I saw Black Panther opening night. So you get 4 reviews today. How about that? And I think we'll go ahead and we'll discuss the films as they come up. I think virtually all of them except for one is going to come up as we talk about the different categories there. I think. Well, actually, no. 2 of the films we're going to have to review afterwards, I think. Anyhow, so we'll go ahead and actually 3, I think, right? Unless I've got. Don't I? No, I don't. Okay, I only have only Black Panther we're going to talk about. The other 3 I'm just going to have to review afterwards. But I think 2 of the other 3 I have, 2 out of the 3 I have getting top category consideration, top 8 category consideration. Okay, so with that being said, we'll go ahead and we'll dive in here. We'll kind of work our way up. So I'd not say that this is the worst category by any means. But just one I usually start at the bottom at is visual effects. And with this one, I'm just going to go in order of most likely to least likely here. I don't have them alphabetized or anything. But first is going to be Avatar: The Way of Water. Just having seen the new trailer and stuff too, it's like I just don't think you bet against this one right now. This is clearly a front runner in this category. Even if it's spottier than the first film, which got a lot of recognition basically across the board, what it ended up except for like screenplay and acting and stuff. But otherwise ended up with like 9 nominations, I want to say. I don't think this one gets to 9. I think at best it's looking at like 6 or 7 if it can break into Best Picture. But again, it's going to probably miss screenplay, probably going to miss all the acting categories. I would say even stuff like film editing is not really a sure bet at this point. We'll get into that as we go here. But yeah, I just don't see that one being a large, as big a contender across the board as the first Avatar was. But visual effects, I don't see it having a problem with. I'm going to put Top Gun Maverick second, actually. I think, again, you're just going to have so many Academy voters that look at that and say, oh, all the plane stuff is visual effects. They did a really good job, so they'll nominate it. Even though majority of the film's effects are practical. So that's that one. The first one did not get in. I'm going to put Black Panther in, though, to this one for visual effects. I just think that, and we'll get into, because I do want to talk a little bit about the effects in this one. But the first one, remember, the effects were really wonky in some sequences, like especially when we get into the third act. Like the rhinos didn't look good. A couple of the fight sequences at the end are all CG, and they don't really look like they composited them very well, and all that. But the second one, I feel like it's going to get in, also because I just look at the competition. I'm like, I don't know if that one's a sure bet, if that one's a sure bet. Some of these other ones that are also in play. Then in fourth place, I have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. The first Doctor Strange was a nominee for visual effects, and we tend to get at least 1 or 2 Marvel films in there for visual effects when they have multiple films out. Look at last year, Shang-Chi and Spider-Man both made it in. And then Jurassic World Dominion is my 5th pick. Traditionally, the Jurassic Park films do okay with this category. And again, I looked at the competition, I'm like, I don't really think they're going to go for some of these other films. One of them, though, I think does have a decent shot here of getting in. So my next one, I think my 6th place one, I think is one that could trounce it, but I'm going to wait until I've seen it, and it should be one of the next ones I see, actually, probably. And that's Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think that one, some people have talked about it having some visual effects in it, so I think that one's a close 6th place. And then my other 2 that I'm considering here are going to be The Batman and Thor, Love and Thunder. I was going to put Pinocchio on this list because we did see Kubo and the Two Strings break into both visual effects and animated feature, but if anything, that'd be a 9th place contender right now. But yeah. Anyway, so now that we've talked that one, I'll go ahead and do a quick review of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And I gotta say, I don't think I like this one as much as the first one. In the overall string of Marvel films, I think this is toward the if it's in the middle, it's like the top of the middle, if that makes sense. Like, I think I put it on my list here as like number 15, personally, but I feel like there's some really good stuff in the movie. When we get to it, like the overall story I enjoyed. What they did with Namor and his people were really cool. The first sequence they pop up in, I'm not going to say how, but it reminded me of Carnival of Souls. Yeah, look that up. But yeah, it was like there was something there, and it's like there's a really cool thing that these guys do that's introduced really early in their first scene, and you're like, oh, that's weird. And it sounds weird. That's a very, like, sound-wise, it's a very weird thing they do. And you're like, oh, okay, these guys are cool. You know, these guys are going to be tough or whatever. And it's like, okay, they bring that back once, but I'm like, couldn't you just inevitably just, like, kill everybody everywhere all at once, so to speak, if they just keep doing that to, like, anybody that troubles them? And it's like, okay, that doesn't make sense. There's a couple other of those little plot holes that I think over time kind of seep in. That's one of them. And overall, I think Namor, he doesn't have the level of villain of Killmonger in this film. Namor, I mean, I don't think that's a huge spoiler to say he is the primary villain here, but just he's not as interesting as Killmonger. He doesn't have the rooting factor that you kind of have a little bit for Killmonger, even though you root for Black Panther in the movie. You understand, you sympathize with Killmonger to a certain extent there in the film, I think, in the first one. With Namor, there is a scene about midway through where they show, okay, this is why he has disdain for the surface people and why he hasn't popped up in a long time and stuff. And you're like, okay, yeah, but I just feel like they could have done that a little better. I've been really mixed about the decision not to have T'Challa in the film. I know there's been a lot of online debates and stuff about people that think he should have just been recast and they should have just gone with a story where it was T'Challa versus Namor and stuff, which I think would have worked. I don't think it would have shifted way, way too much of the story. But I'm going to say, because Chadwick is no longer with us, I do have to say, I was a little worried going into the film, too, that they were going to really lean on that too much. And it's like, okay, yeah, they do spend, I'll say, roughly the first quarter hour kind of on that. And then it's not really that huge a part of the movie after that, which is good, because I didn't want to sit there for 2 hours and 40 minutes and feel miserable because we're missing, a very large talent that was kind of a big centerfold piece of the MCU. It's like you can do that on your own private time. Why spend a movie on it, And so, but I do have to say there is something that happens. I'm not going to say where in the movie because it is a major spoiler, but there is something that happens that almost made me cry. It was such a good reveal. I'll say that. And it was really, it was a really, really tender moment and something that was just very, very, very good. And it kind of, through the piece, it kind of made me say, okay, I think the decision to not recast T'Challa so you could have this moment, it makes it worth it, I think. I might be alone in that. I don't know. I haven't heard a lot of chatter about that scene yet. It's only been out a couple days, and obviously I don't think anybody wants to spoil it yet. But, man, that scene actually did have a big emotional effect on me. Let's see. I think overall some of the action scenes in the film are pretty good. There's a car chase that felt a little derivative of the car chase through Korea in the first film. So I was like a little disappointed in that. The Ironheart character, I largely felt you could have dropped her and you really wouldn't have missed much. I think plot-wise they do try to make her relevant, but again, I just don't know. And not say that it was a bad character or anything or a bad performance, but I was just not really in love with that character, the way she was utilized in this. And I felt part of the reason the movie is at 2 hours and 40 minutes is because she's there. And if you cut her out, you could have gotten it down to 2:20. And I think the movie probably would have been a little more straight line, a little better for it. Let's see, who else? I gotta say, though, Letitia Wright, I mean, she has to hold a lot of the a lot of the film here, and I think she steps up to it. I really liked her in the first film. She was a scene stealer in the first film, and now a lot of the weight of the film is on her shoulders now, and she's able to lift it. And I think she does a tremendous job in this. She's given not just some of the action beats, which I don't think we'll go into how much of hers are action beats. She gets a couple early. I'll say that. Beyond that, it could be spoiler territory, so I don't want to say. But yeah, and she holds those fine. Like, she kind of had an action beat in the first film with the car chase and stuff, too. And obviously she did a little bit in, like, Infinity War, and she was in the part of the battle in Endgame. So, yeah, I don't think that's a huge thing to give that away, that she does have some involvement action-wise in this film as well. But also just some of the emotional beats she has. Obviously losing her brother, as they write in the film and stuff. Yeah, it's like some beats are really, really heavy for her, and I think she does a great job. Overall, the visual effects are pretty good. Again, there's a couple spotty spots here and there where there's like maybe a digital animal or two, and you're like, oh, that doesn't look good. But yeah, I think the stuff they do on like Namor with his flying wings and stuff, which at first, yeah, on paper that sounds dumb, but they make it work in the film. That worked. A lot of the underwater stuff worked. I don't know if it's going to be as good as the stuff in Avatar, but we'll see. Yeah, I think the fight sequences in this I thought were a big improvement over the first film. There's a couple. Okoye gets one bout she has with this one Namor ally or whatever, and these two go back and forth in the film. I won't say how many times, but they go back and forth at least a couple times. And their stuff was really good. Okoye and Shuri's chemistry here, awesome. Really awesome. I can't say how much they're together, but the couple scenes they have together are really, really good. And that, I mean, I was having a ball with all those scenes. So I give a lot of props to that for that pairing there. That was a good pairing. One that doesn't automatically ring to your head, because I don't think they had more than like a couple lines of dialogue back and forth in the first film. But man, they were really good together. Of course, Angela Bassett is good in all her sequences. Unfortunately, a lot of her best stuff is in the trailer. I know there was kind of an online feeling that maybe she could break into supporting actress, but I'm not to that level yet. Who else? I forget the character name, but Lupita Nyong'o's character is back. Yeah, she's fine. I didn't really get a huge impression off her in the first movie. In the second one, I can't say how big an impression, because again, it does get into spoiler territory. But they do a couple more things with her character. Let's see what else. Martin Freeman, always good to see him back. I don't know. I feel like we're really early into the film's release, so I could spoil a couple things, but I'm not going to, obviously. Yeah. So overall, yeah, the film does feel like it doesn't need to be 2 hours and 40 minutes long. It doesn't, it doesn't ever like totally drag, but there's definitely some spots where it does feel like, okay, maybe we could have sped it up just a hair here or there. Like I said, I'm sure there's that one plot hole I talked about. I'm sure there's a couple other ones that I can't get into because they are more spoilery. But overall, it's an 8 out of 10, and it's a strong 8 out of 10. I put this about the same level as Avengers: Age of Ultron, which I think I do like a little more than some fans out there. Definitely some MCU fans are a lot more critical of Age of Ultron. And I might be maybe a little more critical of this, because I know right off the bat a lot of people were talking about how this one was better than the first one or as good as the first one. I'm like, nah, not quite, but still, entertaining film, solid film for 2 hours and 40 minutes, and yeah, I think it's a good one. Okay, we'll move on now. This is going to be the sound category next. And again, I said it at the start of the season, nothing has changed. Top Gun Maverick is going to be your front runner for best sound. And yeah, I don't see that changing through the season here. I think Avatar: Way of Water is going to fight for it as well, but I don't think it's going to get there. I'm putting the Fabelmans in. The Fabelmans feels like one of those best picture contenders that can break into this category for sure. There might be one or two other ones we'll get to. I'm going to put in, maybe it feels like a wild card to some people, but All Quiet on the Western Front. It's a war film. War films tend to do extremely well in this category. So I'm going to put that one in. And then Babylon. I'm going to put Babylon in, which, I'm very mixed on that one. All three movies I saw today had a trailer of Babylon attached to them, so I was getting really sick of seeing that fucking Babylon trailer, which, again, is one of the worst trailers I've ever seen, because it's just overload, just complete overload, Baz Luhrmann style, and I was like, I was just getting a headache over and over again as it was playing. Oh, boy. But that being said, since it has to do a little bit with jazz and a little bit of transition from talkies, from sound or silent films to talkies and stuff, I get, yeah, sound is going to be a big component of the film, so I think it breaks in. Don't forget about Elvis in this category. I think that's going to be one of the other big players. The Batman could be in play here for that. Black Panther is going to be in play. Everything Everywhere All at Once is going to be in play. And I think that's going to be it for the sound category there. Let's see. Let's move on to the... let's see here. I always forget my order here. I think makeup would be next. Yeah, makeup. I always try to put it in this order. I'm going to go ahead and say, because Brendan Fraser's going to win for Best Actor, The Whale, that pairing of an acting category win and a makeup win, like we saw with Iron Lady and like we saw with Darkest Hour. And at least the nomination happened with Judy, even though that one didn't win makeup. I think that happens with The Whale, and we're going to see it nominated. I think it's the front runner for now, but the Batman is very, very close. What they do with Colin Farrell in that film, very impressive, and a couple other characters that pop up too. Very impressive. So that one is a strong second place. Elvis, I'm putting in there. A lot of people are, so I'm just putting it in. The same with The Woman King, having not seen that one. And for fifth place, I'm really close on this one because there's a couple contenders in there that I think are really close to getting that fifth slot, but I'm going to put Black Panther in there for now. For the also in play, I'm going to put Everything Everywhere All at Once, Blonde. Some people have liked Blonde, said there's some good makeup with that. We can't forget, 1917 made this category with like a couple bandages, and that was about it. So All Quiet on the Western Front, having not seen it, I think there's a chance for that one to have some ability here as well. Till is also in play here. And, I did forget. Yeah, I have that one getting another nomination. So I think I'll review that one next. And then I Want to Dance with Somebody is also one I'm going to put in there, just because it feels like one of those biopics where you'll see the main character age and stuff as it goes on. Okay, so Till was one I did see today as well, and I'm going to... let's just go ahead and review that one too, yeah. So with this one, I think... I'm going to make sure I have her name right. Danielle Deadwyler, right? Okay, I was going to say, as the movie was starting, I'm like... I froze on the actress's name because she's literally like one of the first frames you see in the film is her face and stuff. So I was like, Danielle, and then after like halfway through the film, like Danielle Deadwyler, that's her name, that's right. And I think Danielle does obviously a very, very good job in the film. She really does hold a lot of the emotion of the film and in the film's heart, like literally right in her hands. Well, metaphorically in her hands. You get what I mean. Overall, I feel like the film is good. I don't know if it's necessarily one that I would say is like an absolute standout, but definitely it's a film that holds your interest and makes you really root for her and root that her son gets justice, because the characters in the film that she goes up against, the people that murder Emmett Till, which I don't think is a spoiler because that's historical, you really root against them. You really want them to get what's coming to them. And they really are really unsympathetic. And it feels like a weird criticism for me. Because I'm sitting there the whole time, I'm like, okay, well, literally every white person in the film is just the most absolute despicable person of all time. And you're like, okay. It's like, unfortunately, they kind of leave it at that, and there's really nothing else going on. And I get that's part of the story here. That's obviously what happened, But I just feel like there could have been room for at least one sympathetic white guy up there, right? I mean, it just... I don't know, maybe just because of my skin color, some people probably, you can't talk about this, but whatever. It's like, I don't know. I just felt like... And even if you are going to go this route, I think you could have added some dimension to some of these characters. The way you add, like, to compare it to, like, something like To Kill a Mockingbird, which also has a lawsuit and, a trial kind of as part of the piece... At least with the villain characters in that one, who are definitely racist and definitely are, lying the whole time and guilty the whole time and stuff. At least there's some added dimension to them. There's some stuff going on with them where you get to know their characters a little better. With here, it's like, oh, they're just racist, and they're just racist, and they move on. And unfortunately, that's really about all the film has time for and all the film wants to say about it. Which, again, I guess, obviously, historically speaking, it's fair. I mean, it's not incorrect. So you can't... I mean, it's a weird criticism to have, but it just didn't feel like there was a lot else the film had to say about the era of the time as far as the relationship between black and white. And pre-civil rights and everything. And then What's good, though, is the film did get into some dimension, though, when it came to some of the characters that were there the night that Emmett Till was kidnapped. And at one point, Mammy, the lead character, Danielle's character, does go down and talk with the person that Emmett was staying with, and like, okay, so why did you choose, choose for the things to happen that happen? And that dynamic I thought was really good. And it's funny because I think scenes like that where we see Danielle go, toe to toe with these people, that and her the scene where she does her testimony, which is all done in one shot, so it's like really on display how good she is at this. Those sequences I think are better than some of the other sequences that go on in the film. Because one thing I felt was really, again, just not a choice I would have made, was there's a couple scenes where a couple characters just start wailing because they're just in such pain and such sorrow over what's happened and stuff. And that stuff, I kind of, not say I got tired of it, but I just never, it's like you got to really do that well in a film if it's going to make, the big emotional impact. Otherwise, it's just something you sit back and laugh at, unfortunately. And maybe it's just my brain that does that. But there were I didn't laugh in the theater today, but I was like, I don't know if I would have gone that far with it. Let's see. Otherwise, the supporting cast was all good. I liked all the performances and stuff fine. But Danielle was definitely the standout there. And yeah, I think she is going to get in pretty much across the board for the film. Yeah, generally though, I feel like I was also afraid this one was going to be where, okay, the stuff with Emmett Till is like the first 10 minutes of the movie, and then he gets killed, and then the other 2 hours are just sorrow and pain and sorrow. And no, I mean, it does focus a lot on that in the first half, and then when we get toward the second half, then they get into the trial, which I thought, again, was more interesting. To a fault, because unfortunately, if you look up the case, or if you just look up a couple things about Emmett Till, and even if you don't, I think the outcome of the trial is very obvious from the start, and it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, again, you want to try to build up that suspense, and the film, for all its credit, does do that and does try that, but unfortunately, you're just sitting there at the end of the day, and you're like, okay, you know how it's going to end, that this, whatever the verdict is going to be. It was decided before anybody stepped in, kind of deal. So I think this one is also an 8 out of 10 for me, but again, a stronger 8 out of 10. So yeah, so Till, I would say it's definitely one I would recommend, but I would just say it's, if it does end up in the Best Picture list right now, and again, that's having not seen a lot of the contenders yet. I don't know. I think it'd be a fine inclusion on its own merit, but without seeing the rest of the competition, it's a little hard to completely judge that right now. And not say that it's totally in yet, but I think it's one that's been creeping up as a possible contender there. All right. Next up, we're going to get into the design categories. We're going to start with costume design. And this one, I do have Black Panther out front. The first Black Panther won the category, and yeah, just generally speaking with this one, yeah, I'll pretty much, since a lot of it is set in Wakanda again, obviously you get a lot of those cool costumes and stuff again, so I just have that as a front runner for now. Babylon I have in second, Fabelmans in third, Elvis in fourth, and The Woman King in fifth. Generally, that's the consensus right now. Everything Everywhere All at Once could sneak into the category. Till, to its credit, did have some really good standout dresses and stuff, for especially for Mamie's character. Let's see, and I think that's really about it in this one. Yeah, we'll stop there. In the production design category, I'm again going to put Black Panther out front here. Again, you've got a lot of stuff. Some of the stuff they do with the underwater with the Namor people, I can't pronounce the name of their people, but yeah, that one, what they do with that is really cool. Babylon, again, I have in second, Fabelmans in third, Elvis in fourth, and I have Avatar in fifth place this time. I would look out for, speaking of 1917, another war film sneaking in, All Quiet on the Western Front. I think that one's close. You could see Everything Everywhere All at Once be at play here with all the multiverse stuff going on. And then, actually, I will say as a possibility, one that I saw today that could get in is Banshees. Banshees of Inisherin. I can pronounce it now. There you go. Inisherin, yeah, that's they say it like 6 times. Like by the time they said it like the 5th or 6th time movie, I'm like in my head because I couldn't say it out loud without distracting everybody else around me. It's like in a Sharon, in a Sharon, in a Sharon. I can do it. Yeah, so I'll say that one. I didn't know that was a period piece. Actually, going into it, I hadn't really read a lot of stuff, so I was like, okay, that's fine. I went into 3 Billboards knowing pretty much nada and everything. So unfortunately, I got to say though, because this is the last one I saw today. And to review this one quick, Banshees, it's not as good as 3 Billboards. It doesn't have the wow factor that 3 Billboards had for me. Because I went into that one, again, relatively cold, really cold in some spots. But I feel like with 3 Billboards, there was a lot of narrative chance-taking that happened in that film that I really appreciated. I mean, really appreciated. I mean, there's, like, we can probably talk about it now, all the twists and turns in the film, but, like, virtually every 10 to 15 minutes, there's a little jag in the story that makes you say, oh, I didn't see that coming. Like the sheriff, the Woody Harrelson character killing himself halfway through. You're like, what? What the hell? And then the sequence with the police, with the billboards getting burned. You're like, what are they doing here? It's like that's the title of the movie is 3 Billboards, and you're burning up the title not even 2/3 of the way through. And then you got when she attacks the police station, and you've got not poor at that point because he's a pretty bad character, Sam Rockwell inside. He almost gets burned to death. You're like, oh my god. And then you get the reveal with the John Hawkes character saying he burnt down the billboards, even though we were really sure that it was going to be the other guy, the Sam Rockwell character. And then we've got the sequence where there's the guy that comes in and admits that he raped and murdered Frances McDormand's daughter, and you're like, what? What the hell? It's like, what is going on here? And then you have the good sequence where Sam Rockwell like claws him to get his DNA and stuff. And then the final twist is that wasn't the guy. He admitted to it, and they got the DNA, and you're like, they got him dead to rights, but it wasn't him. And you're like, oh my god. So, and that's also part of the reason why all the bullshit with the campaign around that movie, with it's totally racist. I was like, these people are just cocksuckers at this point. I just hate the fact that they went after that movie just because it was the front runner. It was like so stupid because the narrative chance taking they took in that film paid off. And McDonough had the best script that year. He had the best actors that year. I think he had the best film that year. I don't know if I can say the same for Banshees, unfortunately. So with this one, I do think, really quick though, the acting in the film though is good. I mean, Colin Farrell is excellent in this film. Excellent. I mean, at times you're rooting for him, and at other times you're rooting against him, and he's one of those characters that kind of has some flip-flop moments where it's like, okay, he's a really nice guy, a really laid-back guy at points, but then other times he's really uppity, and he's really kind of, doing stuff and everything, and there's a couple points where he's kind of just downright nasty, and other points where he's downright stupid, and you're like, okay, dude, your sister, who's Carrie Condon, who is also just brilliant in this film. She was the really, I think, the one that wowed me the most. She really, because I haven't seen her way too much else, but man, she was just great in this film. I think of the 3 or arguably 4 performances that are going to be up for consideration for the film, hers I think is the best. Hers maybe just because we know what Colin Farrell can do as an actor, but man, what she did here was excellent as his sister. She is terrific, absolutely terrific. But yeah, she keeps reminding him. She's like, okay, a certain event just keeps happening as we get into the later parts of the film. And you're like, if he's just stop being an idiot, you're going to prevent this other stuff from happening. But you just keep being an idiot. So that part of the film I thought was enjoyable, and it's a very dark comedy when we get to that part because you're like, you kind of can't believe a couple of things that you're seeing, especially when we get into the second and third act. Yeah. Otherwise, for the supporting guys, Brendan Gleeson, I think, is just fine in the film. He doesn't, I mean, there's nothing he shows in this film, I haven't seen the whole film, but in Bruges, it's like there's a couple sequences where he kind of, gets some good moments here and there from a couple of clips I've seen. But yeah, I don't know if he did anything above, like, what he's done in other films. If he gets nominated for it, I'll still be fine with it, because I think he's always one of those actors that when he pops up, you're like, he's always good. And then Barry Keoghan, kind of, again, scene stealer. He kind of every time he popped up, you're like, boom, your eyes just go to him. And yeah, I think he's really good in the film. And even though his character again is pretty much a feckin' idiot, as they keep, I mean, I don't think they don't use that exact phrasing, but he's just kind of an idiot through the film. But it's like he's kind of a lovable idiot to a fault. And yeah, again, I don't think this, not to spoil it, but I don't think this film is as risk-taking and as daring as it thinks it is. Overall, too, maybe one problem that I'm having with this film as well, I don't know if I should even talk about this, but it's kind of weird, in case the actual person is watching this right now, which I don't think they are, but anyways. But it's really weird because I'm not saying I'm going through the exact same thing that the main two characters are in the film, but it's like I kind of am. It's like there's someone who I was really good friends with for a while, and now it's like all of a sudden it's like, wow, there's a very different thing going on here. So okay, what's that about? So so to a certain extent, part of the film was kind of painful to watch right now, and everything, but I don't know. So especially off of that, I'm like, I don't know if I really need or want to rewatch this as much as like Three Billboards. Like as soon as that one was over, I'm like, you could have started that one over again in the next theater, and I would have been just fine. I would have sat down and watched it again. I don't know if I can say the same for this film. Otherwise, otherwise the screenplay otherwise was good. I mean, McDonough always does a good job with the screenplays. And yeah, production design, some of the costume design, because again, I didn't know it was a period piece, but it's set in the 1920s. Some of that stuff is really good. Let's see. Yeah, I guess overall, I mean, it's definitely one too that as it goes along, it feels like a full movie, even though it's not. I don't think it's like an hour 50 or something, but it feels like a full 2-hour movie, which is good. So I think this one, it's a 9 out of 10 for me, but it's a weaker 9 out of 10, closer to an 8, It's definitely got some weird stuff in it, and it's, again, a lot of the acting is really, really good, especially, again, Carrie Condon, who I think absolutely is going to get nominated for supporting actress. I was a little shaky at first, because I'm like, she's not really a big known name, but then I'm like, well, this is a film everybody's going to be watching, so she'll get in. She'll get in. Really at this point my argument is, okay, do I dump Gleason for Barry Keoghan, or is Barry Keoghan gonna get in instead of one of the guys from the Fabelmans, or maybe Ben Whishaw misses? I mean, I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see, but Barry Keoghan is really a standout in this. I really, really liked him in this. I don't know. I feel like that's kind of, I don't know. I feel like I've said it all there for that one. Okay, let's move on to the music categories. For original song, I'm going to start with Black Panther, Wakonda Forever with Lift Me Up, because it's Rihanna's song, and it's really popular right now. Obviously, the film's just coming out, but I just feel like with everything going on, I just feel like that one's going to win. We do have, what's her name? She just won last year for the Bond song, but she's back again with Nobody Like You, which is from Turning Red. And if I read correctly, also you got Diane Warren working on that song, so yeah, I think that's going to get in. Vegas, which is a song from Elvis, I have that getting in. I'm a little shakier on these last two, but Hold My Hand, the Lady Gaga song from Top Gun Maverick, I have in, and then Stand Up from Till, which sounds a lot like the song from Harriet, which, if I recall correctly, was also called Stand Up. Am I not daydreaming on that? I'm going to triple check that really quick. Hold on a minute. Yeah, okay, but where is biographical film. There it is. I was going to say, I was just going to check really quick. Yeah, it was literally called Stand Up. So I'm like, a little like, okay, I don't know. As weird as that sounds. A few other songs to look out for, I think, are Ciao Papa from Pinocchio, which actually I think Del Toro actually is helping write some of the lyrics on that one or something, so he could be a nominee for that. You've got the last time Luca Guadagnino had a film kind of like this was Call Me By Your Name, which got nominated. So there's a song called You Make It Feel Like Home from Bones and All, so I'm going to put that one in. Not To from Triple R or RRR. I don't know if it's Triple R or how they pronounce that. But that was one I think somebody in the comments pointed out very early on. So I don't know. I've heard a couple people talk about that one as well. Love Is Not Love from Bros, and Carolina, which is a song by Taylor Swift, which was in Where the Crawdads Sing. I also have as some possibles there. Okay, for the score category, I have the Fabelmans out front. It's John Williams. It seems like this and Indiana Jones 5 are going to be his swan song career-wise, so especially with this, and he's won 2 Oscars with Spielberg, so it would make sense that he wins his final with the Spielberg film. So I'm going to put Fabelmans there in first. Black Panther Wakonda Forever in second place. Women Talking in third. Babylon in fourth. And in fifth place, I'm going to go Banshees of Inisherin. See, I'm still working on that a little bit. Tar, I was considering for a while there as well, since it has to do with music. Pinocchio, Empire of Light, which I believe is Thomas Newman. Or did we already look this up and we figured out it wasn't? No, that's right. It is not. It is Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. That's right. Then we have I think Avatar is going to be a player here. The first one, because James Horner did the score for the first one, and he has since passed away. But supposedly they've done some interviews with the guy who did the score for this one, and he's somebody who was conducting and stuff and worked under James Horner, so it feels appropriate for him to get that promotion to doing the score for this film. So we'll see if the voters, when we get to the nomination stage, we'll see if the people that are in this in the music branch are aware of that, and see if they show some favoritism toward it. And then I'm going to throw in the Batman here as well, just as a possibility, just because that Michael Giacchino score actually does have some good beats to it. So I'm going to put that one in as a possible contender. For the film editing category, again, I said it from the top. Top Gun Maverick is going to own this category, and I really don't see it changing. Fabelmans I have in second, rather. Everything Everywhere All at Once in third. I'm going to go with a couple kind of outside-ish contenders here. Glass Onion in fourth, and Women Talking in fifth. So I would say Babylon, all the fast cuts and stuff. We'll see if that one gets in. Elvis, supposedly some people really like that one in this category. Some people are saying look out for Avatar, could very much get in there. Banshees, some people say could get in. All Quiet on the Western Front, I think we shouldn't totally sleep on in this category. So yep, that's that one. And last but not least would be cinematography, and I'm just going to put, because it's Roger Deakins, I'm going to put him out front with Empire of Light. Then Janusz Kaminski for Fabelmans. I do have Everything Everywhere All at Once in third place here. Babylon I have in fourth. And then Avatar Way of Water in fifth. So you do have, we can't forget, again, I said it with Top Gun Maverick. Claudio Miranda, who's a previous winner for Life of Pi, did the cinematography for Top Gun Maverick. So we'll see. I think there could be some people in the cinematographer's branch, though, because it was kind of popularly known that a lot of the stuff that's within the cockpit, when it's the actual actors in there up actually flying the planes, they were their own cinematographer for those sequences. So some of those shots that are from the cockpit, which are real flying and stuff, it wasn't Claudio Miranda that was doing all the stuff for that. So part of me feels like some of the people in the guild, possibly in the guild too, but also in the branch, are going to ding it for that. It could still get in anyways, but yeah, that one. All Quiet on the Western Front is a possible contender here. Banshees is a possible contender here. Bardo could get in. The Batman could get in as well. That one I totally would not sleep on. Tar is a possibility here. And some people say Elvis. Elvis could sneak in there for its cinematography as well. All right. So that just leaves the last film that I saw today. Well, it was actually the first film, if that makes sense. The first one I saw this morning was Armageddon Time, which was playing, and it looked like that was one that might leave soon. I don't think it's doing tremendous business at the box office by any means. And this one I'm iffy on. I still don't know if I've decided a score for the film. As I'm going to talk through it and see what number pops up in my head by the end of it. But Armageddon Time I was very mixed on. I feel like, generally speaking, unlike another film, which is kind of self-reflexive and about the filmmaker's childhood, which came out last year, which was Belfast, which was one of my favorites from last year for sure, I think with this one, at least Belfast kind of had a point to it. You know, it had a clear ending. This one, without giving too much away, does not. And you don't really walk away from the film saying, okay, what's the point? With Belfast, it's like, okay, there's times when, yeah, things aren't great, but your home is still your home. You know, it's like that's kind of the general theme of the first film, and it makes you feel all warm and cuddly. This is not a warm and cuddly film by any means. With this one, it's like, okay, you've got racial tensions going on, you've got generation stuff going on, you've got, family dynamics, which are really screwed up. You've got, I mean, a lot of stuff that is just not at all a, nice, warm and cuddly kind of thing. You've got, stuff going on, Jews versus the rest of the world kind of thing. The past stuff that's happened between really anybody of Jewish descent, going on back, even before World War II and World War I. There's stuff that Anthony Hopkins' character talks about. Okay, I guess I can start with the performances. The kid actor in this, who plays the main character, he's really good. I really liked his performance. Anne Hathaway, as good as always. Jeremy Strong is actually really strong in this, I think. Performance-wise, he's really good. And his character, I think, is one of the more interesting ones. He's the dad of the main family here. Because you do get those kind of tender-y moments. You get some moments with him where you're like, oh, okay, he's got a decent heart. It's like he's not just all, shouting and screaming and doing some of the other stuff he does in the film. But then other moments he's shouting and screaming and doing some of the other stuff he is in the film. And you're like, oh, okay. So the way he bounces back and stuff, it's like, well, that's kind of what some fathers are. Some of them are really, doing that, especially when they have two sons like my dad does with me and my brother. So it's like, that part I was like, I didn't really bat too much of an eyelash at. But yeah, performance-wise, though, he did a really good job. Anthony Hopkins, he's always good. So he's good in this. The main kid, his best friend, is played, really well there as well. So I just feel like, again, the movie didn't really seem to have a point. It was more just like, hey, this was my childhood. James Gray directed this, and I really liked his last film, Ad Astra. I think I liked it more than most, actually. So I was going into this one like, okay, yeah, this one's... The reviews, last I checked, were, in the 80s on Rotten Tomatoes? I'm going to see if they've shifted up or down since then, but 75. Okay, so I think it did shift down a little bit. Last I checked, it was like high 80s, so I was like, okay. But, yeah. So, yeah, so I wasn't sure, how much I was going to like this one, but I'm like, hey, I might enjoy it, because I liked his last one quite a bit. But, no, this one, yeah, again, I'm really shaky on, because I don't get the general sense of the story, like, what it was trying to say. Like, is it saying, like, it's because it's set in 1980. It's like, okay, so are things the same as they were 40 years ago as far as like our relations between Jews and everyone else, between blacks and whites, between Jews and blacks? It's like, okay, what are you getting at here, James? Okay, maybe not that. Okay, where are we? Is it a family story about how some families are totally fucked up? Because that's something you can tell going back to caveman era. I don't know if it necessarily has to be set during that time. And clearly, because the film Armageddon, the title kind of refers to the fact that they were afraid that, as some people were, I guess at the time, that Reagan, after he was elected, was going to go to nuclear war with like Russia and stuff. And it's like, well, I mean, obviously we know in history that didn't happen. I mean, I get, obviously, whatever political side of the aisle you're on, there's, you can't deny that Reagan was one of the most popular presidents of his era, for sure. Probably the last American president of our time that was pretty popular through office and stuff. Again, I get it. Some people are going to say, well, no, he was a terrible president and stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, he got us out of inflation, and he kind of, some foreign policy stuff. I can get some people having some questions on and stuff. But yeah, and I'm not by any means a super historian when it comes to his two terms or whatever, but. That being said, he's one of the only presidents that in his second term he won virtually every state in his election and got over 500 electoral votes. So, just pointing that out. But no, I don't know. So again, I wasn't sure where it was coming down, and the overall story I thought was really in fits and starts. Whereas Belfast, I think generally it kept you going, even though that was more kind of slice of life stuff. The same happens here. There is kind of a general, plot line that happens with the kid, going to one school and then something else happens, and then then there's some changes he has to go through. There's a cameo from a known actress that pops up here. I'm like, oh, okay. I had forgotten if she was already announced as being in the film, but I'm like, oh, that's such and such. I'm like, what is she doing here? And she plays a member of the Trump family. I'm like, oh, okay. So we're going this route now. Okay. And another famous Trump shows up. Maybe not the one you're thinking of, but I was like, oh, okay. So they're doing okay. So are they talking like because that's how everybody now feels about Trump, or is this what is this? Again, I wasn't really sure where it was going with it because I don't know. I don't know because it feels like at times that they're kind of pro this, and then other times they're anti this, and they're it was just kind of a mess when it came to that. And definitely, I saw this, and there was only like 4 or 5 people in the theater. And I could hear because the next film I saw, there was like a good 40 minutes in between showtimes. But I kind of sat down, and it's like the last people to leave the theater that were there, they kind of walked out, and somebody literally said out loud, and I was like, exactly. They said, so what was the point of that movie? I'm like, that's exactly taking the words out of my mouth. Absolutely. So I agree. What was the point of the movie? I don't know. So again, I kind of feel like I'm probably going to end up going 5 out of 10 on this one because I feel like it's kind of the same as Jessica Chastain's movie last year with the Bakers, Through the Eyes of Tammy Faye, or The Eyes of Tammy Faye. I always want to say Through the Eyes, but it's The Eyes of Tammy Faye, where I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to recommend it, it's only going to be for the performances, and the rest of the movie is really kind of flounders, when it's not them on screen, So I feel like that's the same thing here. I'm going to say 5 out of 10 on this one. I don't know. You might still enjoy it if you go to see it, but personally, I didn't get as much out of it for sure. All right. Okay. I feel like that's about it for this time. So, boy, I think the next time we get into it here, we're going to have to talk about Golden Globes because those nominations are going to come out here actually, closer than we're thinking here. We've got, they are on, which day is this? No, December the 12th, I'm reading here, which is going to be on a Monday. So that's going to be from this coming Monday. That'll be 4 weeks away from this coming Monday. So, yeah, we're kind of getting closer to that one. I feel like it'll be kind of I'll have to change a couple things around, and then we'll kind of go from there. And then Critics' Choice is out, I believe, the next day or the day after, or 2 days after. If I'm reading here correctly, it's the 13th, which is Tuesday. Yeah, I think they come out on Wednesday, the 14th. If I'm reading it correctly here, I might be wrong, but I don't have the energy right now to Google it. So when they come out, they come out. And again, I'm just kind of in protest, just not predicting those because they go all over the place with their number of nominees in a category. So it's like, well, fuck it. Why try to predict it if you know you've got a good chance of getting the numbers wrong and stuff? So no. I'm just not going to play the game. So I think Globes will probably be the next thing we want to look at for a couple updated predictions on those. So we will catch you then.